to Mary, the Astrofashionista. Welcome to my channel. For those of you who are new here, I'm a professional astrologer and Reiki practitioner, and my channel is for everything astrology and mystical related, whether that's numerology, tarot cards, oracle cards, with the occasional lifestyle video, since I do work in product development in the beauty industry. So please like this video and subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell notification icon for video alerts. And I am super excited today because I have a special guest, Justtina Escandon. Please tell me I said your name right.
Yeah, that was good.
Great. And Justtina is going to tell us more about Santeria today. And just to give you guys a little bit of background, Justtina and I met. She booked a personal reading with me, and we were just talking, and she told me that she's a practitioner of Santeria. And I was like so intrigued, mainly for so many different reasons. And without making this too long, but growing up, my dad incorporated a lot of African spirituality into our household. And so when I was a baby, I had a naming ceremony, and my dad's, one of his best friends is a Babalawo in Ifa. And Ifa is an African form of traditional religion. It's a Yoruba, and it's out of West Africa. And so he did a natal chart reading for me as a baby. And so that's part of my story about why I got into astrology. And Ifa has similar roots to Santeria. So a lot of African traditional religions incorporate, like, you know, pouring libation and talking to deities or rishas, which we'll get into. And so when Justtina told me she was into this, I was like, oh my God, I have to have you on the channel to tell us more. And I also had a reading in Cuba a few years, 2017. So yeah, it was 3 years ago, from someone who I think was a priestess in Santeria, and she did a whole reading. It was like 6 minutes, and I taped it. So like, I've always had this intrigue, and my husband he has a master's in religion with the emphasis in traditional African spirituality. And so like, yeah, this is like right up my alley. So I've been talking a lot. I want to finally pass it over to Justtina to introduce herself. And well, first introduce yourself and let us know a little bit more about you, and maybe how you got into Santeria, and maybe explain it for people that don't know.
Well, my name is Justina. I was actually born into this religion. This is just something my family has been practicing even before I was born. Like, it's just been passed on. Like, it's hereditary to be in this religion at this point. And I am a granddaughter and a daughter of a Santera and a Santero, and it just was just natural for me to just end up, I mean, as much as I struggle through, like, part of my life, I like ran away from the religion, and then it just naturally brings you back in. And yeah, I'm on this journey, the spiritual journey of getting back into my religion, and it's just, everything seems to be clicking, and I don't know what else to say. Like, it's so different for me, like, to be out and open, because from what I was taught, my upbringing was to keep this religion secret. You're not public about it. And it's so different now to see how people are so open, and they're so open-minded about like learning what Santeria is. And a part of me is just like, I'm a little apprehensive, because a part of me is just like, do I talk to people about this, or how are they going to feel when I open up about certain parts of the religion? Because there's just so much to it. And, you know, the origins of it, like, I always find it like tragically beautiful. Like, it was Europa being brought through Cuba, but through the slave trade. And the way that they had to hide their religion, they had to like hybrid it with Catholicism. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I grew up Catholic, but I also grew up with Santeria. So it was just so hard for me to like, how do I explain? Like, it's so hard for me to articulate how beautiful I think it is, that like now I can talk about it, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. So Santeria, I'm going to start saying it in the Santeria. So that's important, because the root is saint, like Santeria, it's saints, right?
Which is like Well, it means like Odisha worship, like you're worshiping the saints. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the saints' way.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting so that it was brought over. So this is like a history lesson. So slaves, and I'm just assuming that some of the watchers don't know about the slave trade, but during the slave trade, a lot of slaves came from West Africa and they were brought to the States. They were brought to Cuba, to Jamaica, Brazil. Like they even had more slaves than the United States. I feel like we hear a lot about slavery in the United States, but throughout the Caribbean, there was slave trade. In Europe, there was slave trade all over the world, but we always hear about the US where we live. And during that, a lot of the slaves were still practicing their traditional religions that they had from Africa. And that was discouraged. And ultimately, Christianity, Catholicism was used as a means to kind of keep the slaves in check. So from what my understanding in doing history of history is that the Santeria was kind of a merging of both, in using the saints, almost like you're using Catholicism, but you're still keeping your tradition and your culture alive, which is super important because I feel like in America that was mainly lost, but in those Caribbean islands and even in Brazil, they didn't completely lose the tradition as much as we did here in the United States. So what do you think about that whole thing, and how has that affected your family? And give us some more insight on like where your family's from. Like I want to know your background.
Okay. Well, my grandmother, who's a Santera, was from Santa Clara, Cuba. Um, right before Fidel Castro came into that city, her and her family had fled. They came, they flew over, came and seek refuge here in America. Um, and then they just brought the religion over with them. And then they met my like my mom's family, who happened to be a white mountain Apache, and they do their own spiritualism. So I just come from like a big spiritual background. So the way that it affected them was that they already kind of like, it was more welcoming in Cuba than it was when they moved here in America. In America, I mean, as much as they say like you can come here and practice your religion, at the same time they kind of like, they'll attack you for it, you know, like if it's not Christianity, then it's like devil worshiping. Like I've been, my childhood experiences have been like where I've been called out for just doing witchcraft, which, you know, it gets lumped up in there, but it's rituals are, you know, somehow deemed as witchcraft.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah, rituals are, and that is, I mean, there's a long history with that, with when something doesn't serve the church or something that threatens the church, because that's power, right? Like having people under one religion is how you kind of keep power. So when something doesn't serve it, it gets stigmatized. The same thing happened to astrology, Santeria,
really,
voodoo, which is not
yeah,
voodoo, is looked at, but it's voodoo, and it's not, you know, that was taken basically by Hollywood, and it's become this whole thing where it's supposed to be evil, and that's totally not what it is.
yeah,
And a lot of these religions and practices share a common thread, and they have a belief in one God. So there's a
yeah,
belief in a God, and then there's the deities or orishas, right? So do you
yeah.
want to tell us more about, like, for the person that knows nothing about this religion,
So
what would you tell them, and like how would you describe it?
I guess the basics would be that there is one God. His name is Olodumare. We really don't worship him. We really don't go towards him for anything that we need, mainly because he created the Orishas. He created them because he, you know, to deal with human needs, because there was just things that we could do on our own, on our, like for ourselves. And sometimes we have like these, for humans, we kind of like overthink things. So he created the Orishas, which are like the saints, for us to go to ask for help. So we ask them for help. And really, I mean, they're just different names for calling, you know, universal energies. We just name them. Like Oshun happens to be the Orisha of rivers, which you would pray to her for like love and passion. And then there's Yamaya, which is the mother of the fishes or the seas, and you go to her for like fertility or all sorts of things. So she's a mama, she takes care of you, you know. There's Obatala, which is the Orisha for wisdom. And then my favorite, like my absolute favorite, even when I was little, is Elegua. Elegua is the Orisha or saint for roads. So if you had any obstacles in your life or anything, you would just pray to him, and he would take those obstacles out of the way for you to like overcome things. So I mean, there's just the basics would be that, you know, Santeria is you talking to the earth and letting the earth know what you need, and you pray to them. We just call them by names to give them a human form for us to kind of attach to each other, like attach to it, so that way we can help ourselves and not have God do everything. You know, we can pray to God, which we should, but we should pray to God to praise him, to give thanks to him. But we end up doing this, our human thing, which is like, I need this and I need help with that. And it's just like he created Orishas for us to just go to them and they can help us. They aid us. They're kind of like guardian angels at the same time.
That's exactly, I feel like anyone that's like Catholic, like it's an archangel. That's how you would kind of look at it, like Archangel Michael
or saints,
or saints. And think of it as like the CEO of a company. Like you wouldn't always go directly to your CEO. You're gonna go to the head of the department, and so they're your filter.
Yeah, you know, that's
you know,
that's what, I love the way you put that. Let me use that now.
Yeah. So I love that. And so basically it's like a form of spirituality to kind of help better your life. So it's a way of life, right? Like more of like a lifestyle.
It is like a lifestyle, because I mean I'm slowly getting back to the religion. Like I'm saving up to, you know, become fully in the religion. Like there's a ceremony that I need to do in order to get my own spiritual name, and there's certain things that I have to do. I really don't want to express because they're really sacred.
How has Santeria shaped your life?
How it shaped my life. I can tell you how it shaped my life when I wasn't a part of it. So the way it shaped my life when I wasn't a part of it, I was all over the place. When you don't have God or whatever God you believe in, you just kind of just stray. You're just in this mode of not having anything. Like I didn't have any faith in anything, so everything in my life just felt like it was all over the place and it fell apart. And at the time in my life where I didn't have my religion, I kind of was just, I had bad relationships with friends and people and just all sorts of things. And, you know, when I finally came back to my religion and I came back to the Orishas and, you know, my ancestors, they gave me strength, and it just helped me realize that my religion gives me strength, and it teaches me that even though life doesn't go as you plan, like there's a reason for it and you should be thankful. And it just has given me strength to kind of go above and beyond my struggles. And it, like, before when I was younger, you look at Santeria and you're like, oh, this is fun. Like it just, because it's very lively. There's all these mass and all, you know, you celebrate the Orishas on their birthdays and things of that. So it looks fun. But then when you become a teenager, you don't know really what you want to do in religion, or if you want to be in religion, you kind of like lose your way. And then now I'm not a young adult, I'm an older adult because I'm 30. So now that I'm older, I look at it and I'm just like, I'm grateful that I have the Orishas and I have them to guide me on this earth. Like I am so happy that, you know, I can speak to the earth, you know, in whatever form that they come in. If it's me talking to Elegua to help me with obstacles in my life, like it just helps me believe that, you know, I have the inner strength, even if I have to pray and I have to go through it. Like it's just shaped me as a better person, like to be positive. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like I've just become more positive because of my religion.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people will relate to that, whether they're Christian, Muslim, you know, Buddhist, like whatever. It's like it's the common thread of having something to believe in and knowing that you're supported outside of just your human form.
Yeah.
Important. So when people ask you, um, like, what's your religion, or if you're religious, how do you respond? Because I'm sure that's interesting.
I would naturally, like, if I feel like I can't tell the person, I would just tell them I'm Catholic.
Hmm.
It's just it's like a default. It's like a default when you're in Santeria. Your default is like, oh, I'm Catholic.
Yeah.
It's like they pretty much, people are like, okay, whatever. But when people do find out that I practice Santeria, like their first thought is that I'm a devil worshiper, or I'm automatically going to practice witchcraft on them. That's like their go-to.
Yeah.
Or I do have the positive side where people come to me and they're like, what can I do for this? I have this obstacle. What can I do? What kind of prayers can I do? Or is there a bath, or is there a mojo bag? What is there that I can do? That those are very far and few. I mean, but prior to it being popular now and that the mainstream media has picked it up.
Mm. Yeah, that's, and which I want to get to in a second. So, um, to give people kind of like an insight into what do you do in terms of rituals. So, like, for instance, in the Akan, uh, there's like baths, like you said, like if something's going on, there's certain baths and certain herbs that you can use. Um, there are rituals that you can do. There's, you can go see a priest or a priestess for advice. Like there's all these different things, and they usually kind of, guide you depending on what's going on in your life. So with Santeria, I think it's pretty much the same, right? Like, so when I had a reading, the woman told me to make an offering. Well, she told me to put a bell in my door. So she said, put a bell to stop evil spirits from coming in your front door. So I bought a bell with the Eye of Horus, or Heru, and I put it up in my place. And then she said to make an offering to Yemaya. And so I took bananas. She said, take 6 bananas or something. And I took it to the ocean. So my husband and I went, he was my husband. We were, I think, engaged at the time. And and I threw them into the ocean. And I kind of said out loud what I wanted. So like, there's these certain things that they'll tell you to do. Can you give some insight on like?
Yes. Normally, well, from the way I was raised, we call them petitions. Like a petition or an offering that, like you talked about Yamaya, like you gave her bananas. Like another thing that you could give her would be a watermelon, and her favorite metal happens to be copper. So you can put 7 pennies. Her favorite number is 7. And she loves molasses. Like, so I grew up with molasses. Like, I love molasses, but you would give her molasses because she loves everything sweet. And if you're in a time of trouble, or like fertility, or like, she can help with everything because she's a mama. She's a mama of the religion. So she's like kind of like Saint Mary. So you would just go to her. So you could just do that. You take it into the ocean, you give it to her. I actually do something it's my own ritual that I do for my birthday, but I go to her because I'm a Cancer and I like to go to the beach. I'm a water sign, so naturally I go there. And my birthday ritual, which is not part of religion, but it's just become my way. I petition to her to give me a good year because, it's a new year on your birthday. That's your new year. So I go there. I petition that I want great abundance and that this is my offering to say thank you, mama. And I give her a watermelon and I go in the ocean to let her cleanse me. But there's certain baths you can do for Yamaya. There's one that I love from Mobatala, which is a milk bath, which will help calm your head if you're emotional. You go to a Santera, like, to find out what's going on. Like, if you feel like your life is all over the place, or you feel like everything is hard for you, go to a Santera. And usually it depends on the Santera because she can read cards or she can read shells, or she can read your hand. Sometimes it's just reading your energy and letting you know, and they'll give you a cleaning. And a cleaning can consist of anything. It can be a bath, it could be a whole ritual, it could be all sorts of things. And you go to them to find out what you need to do. It can also be that you may not need a cleaning. You may need to like set an offering to, Elegua or Ogun. It just depends on which Orisha that you need help from.
Hmm. I love that because it's like, because and it's really related, and this, I love having conversations like this because it shows you how common themes are in our life, right? So like in astrology, every planet rules, a metal or something, right? And every sign is connected to something, and they're connected to the planets. And so it's kind of like you go to that, like, what is the specialty of that Orisha, right? What is the
Yeah.
specialty of that planet? And so there's just a common thread of everything. And then that's how you help counsel people, because you're, when in a role like, you're kind of being a counselor, right? So people are
Yeah.
coming to you with a problem and you're helping them solve it in a spiritual way. And we're living in this earthly plane, which is so difficult. But some of our problems can't be solved with our head; they have to be solved with faith and energy shifts. And it seems like what you're doing is you're helping to shift the energy. Just like if someone were to come to me for a reading, like you did, and we talk about all these things, like, well, this is what's going on in your chart. This is the energy. It's that Mars energy, or it's the Venus and the motherly energy, and all those things. And that is all tied back to African spirituality too, if you really want to break it down and go deep. So it's just like such a common thread, and I love that. And it doesn't. You don't even have to be in religious to come. Do you? Like, you don't have to be. Like, you can be of any religion and come see someone, right? As Santero.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, well, I was even gonna say, like, a part of my life when I didn't have Santeria, I was on like a spiritual journey of like going to other religions. Like at some point I was Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
I went from like being Baptist to like I have two Chinese aunts. So then I went to become Buddhist for a bit. And I mean, I was never confirmed in Catholicism or Santeria. So like I could go to any religion without having to convert.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you can practice a different religion and still come to Santeria.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it never really truly, like, I don't ever feel like it conflicts.
Yeah.
And that's maybe because I've been all over the place. Like I even Hinduism, like I learned a lot from that. I was learning about being Muslim at some point in my life because I was just curious. I
Yeah.
think that, so like I like I said, like I feel like Santeria kind of opens the doors to kind of just be like open-minded to so many different religions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like America, we have so many here. Like everybody brings their religion here when they come here that, you kind of have like it's a candy store. You can go and learn about all sorts of different, religions.
Totally. So what do you think about Santeria, or even just more forms of spirituality that are not the main books, right? Judaism, Islam, or Christianity. Like, what do you think about those becoming more mainstream and people knowing more about it? Like, what do you think that's a good thing? Or
Yes, I think it is. Because it's great that we're coming to like an understanding of each other's religions. Although I will say with like parts of Santeria, I'm a little apprehensive because, most people go in and they practice without a santero. And I'm always worried that, like they could get themselves into something they may not want to open up. You
Mhm.
know, there's different parts of religion, like when people look at like Wiccan, like when people do Wicca, like, and there's tons of, you know, Wiccan practitioners that they tell you, please be careful when you practice. And that's how I feel about like Santeria. Just be careful when you're practicing
Yeah.
because you don't know what you could open. Because you're like you said, like we're playing with energies. Like
Mhm.
we're using our energies to shift things to help us.
Yeah.
You could open up something that you may not want.
Yeah.
But I do think I'm like apprehensive because of that part, and also grew up that like you hide Santeria because you had to hide it, and that was part of like it coming to the Americas, which was you hide it because you don't want them to know what you're practicing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like it and I don't like it at the same time. It's like I'm coming to terms with that. It's good because I want people to know that like no, I'm not a devil worshiper.
Yeah.
I do believe in God. You
Yeah.
know, I believe in angels and I believe in praying. Like I don't like the devil. So
Yeah.
for me, that the devil's scary. Like I grew up just, I mean, part Catholic, you kind of just, you're instilled with like the fear of hell. So,
Mhm.
like I don't practice that. Like, but I that's what I want from people who are like looking at it now. I mean, it's popular,
Yeah.
and I want them to look at that and realize that people who they may have, saw practice or knew or grew up practicing, that we're not devil worshippers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's important to me.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's very important. I totally understand and hear you because people usually it's ignorance, right? And I don't say ignorance as a like that's literally what it is. Ignorance
yeah,
is not knowing something. So when it's something that you don't know and things have been ingrained in you either through church or through your parents or wherever you've heard it for, there's been all these negative connotations about things. Of course, you're going to question and feel like it's something negative if it's something you don't know. And so I think, especially when it comes to rituals and by the way, like even in Christianity, praying to me is a ritual. That's you're asking for something,
well,
or
going to church every day, like not every day, but like on Sunday, and you're doing certain prayers, or you're reading the Eucharist, or all sorts of things like that. That's a ritual. Like
yeah,
and people are always talking about how witchcraft has spells. Well, a prayer to a saint, or a
yeah,
prayer that's inside the Bible, that's a spell too. A spell, it's coming from it. You do a spell words. It's etymology even talks about that. Like words are powerful because you're bringing them out. You're bringing whatever you have from within as information out in the world when you're speaking it.
yeah, totally. And like think about even communion. You know what I mean? Like just things
Yeah.
that you do. It's the marketing of it. It's how you market it. So like, so yeah, so and you can use anything for good or bad, right? Because there's dark and light energy. So it's not the practice, it's not the religion that ends up being bad. It's the people and how they use it. And honestly, you can say that about Christianity and wars and starting a war based on a religion like that. The religion itself is not what's bad. So I think
Use it.
it's how you use it. And so I think the same it applies across the board for any religious or spiritual practice. So yeah, and I kind of agree with you about the mixed feelings about it being good because it makes it people more open-minded, especially if they really want to learn. But then on the flip side, there's always going to be those people that just want to capitalize off of it, or they want to make commercialize it. And
Yeah, there's a lot of that now.
that's happening in astrology and tarot, all of that. That's all happening. We're seeing that in the digital age. And so, there's nothing that you can control, but I could see a similar thing happening with this as well. So what I wanted to do is show you the video that one of my girlfriends took when I had the reading in Cuba. And because we didn't really talk about well, you did mention like some people use shells and some people use cards. And so this one particular woman used both. So the reading is in Spanish, but maybe you can do like your commentary through
Okay.
it. Like, what is it? It's like, on TV when they're showing something and the person's like commenting like on Bravo or something. This is going to be your version.
Reaction videos that they do.
Reaction video, yeah. This is your reaction video. So, what I'm going to do is share my screen so you can see and then play the video.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm already excited.
Levanto mi copa, pido paz, unión y tranquilidad para el mundo. Miro a la iglesia para buscar salud, para buscar fuerza, para buscar energía y a la vez la reflexión. Pido luz para toda tu familia.
So she just asked me to pull a certain amount of cards.
Yeah.
Ah.
So the doll next to her, it happens to be one of her spirits. One of her, like, people would call them spirit guides and pomorphos. You know, like that's one of her spirit guides with her. They're helping her with the reading.
I didn't know that. I was wondering about that. These were outside of a church.
So she's giving water to the orishas, to her ancestors, like when you sprinkle, like when you drop food, it's usually your ancestors that want food because you know, we have an altar. And feed on the altar. So if you drop food, that's your ancestors asking for food.
That
So she's
a lot of pentacle cards, so I got excited. I was like, money?
depending on how they come out, it could be totally different.
Con el sol, con las estrellas y la luna llena, pedir al sol. Tendrás mucha money.
She's saying you're blessed. She's saying that you're so super blessed. Like God loves you. Like that's what I'm getting from that, because I like. I don't think so.
Vestir de guay.
She told me to write
Al mar, a la playa, limpiar con 7 bananas.
So she's telling you to go to Yamaya.
Limpiar. Entrar a la iglesia. Pedir luz para familia. Algo que suene para espantar todo lo malo y que todo se sea congratulado y happy. Felicidades, todo congratulé. Happy. Todo bien. Amor para ti. Todo va a estar bien. Ya, infinito.
So I haven't watched this in so long, since I think, I don't know when, maybe that was 2017. And 3 years later, so now that I think she said love for me, like I was going to be in, like, have love. And I think at the time, I was in a relationship, but I was thinking about leaving around that time. It was that same year. Like I wasn't sure. And that was the year that my husband and I got together like a few months after. So that was March, April, and then my husband and I started dating June, July.
Okay.
So it's so funny that she said that. And then she was telling me to do all these things. I know she was saying like change the colors, but it basically was a positive reading.
Oh, so she
Yeah.
was telling you to change the colors of what you were wearing.
She was like, keep changing it in your house. Like I was piecemealing the Spanish, but then when I had my one of my best friend's mom, she's Panamanian, she kind of confirmed that. And then my other friend said, yeah, the bell thing, like put it in your house at your door. So
Yeah.
I was kind of just like trying to make sure I did everything that she had told me to do. But overall, I felt like the reading was very positive, like, because she said todo bien, like, and she said,
Yeah. Well, because I don't know Spanish, so when I saw her do that and she's talking, and usually when she's pulling those cards, I was like, oh, like you're usually that means like you're loved, like you're loved, and usually sometimes that like I've seen card readings when somebody does that, that means like you're loved by God, like you're gonna get positive things coming.
oh, I love that.
That's what I took from it.
Yeah, it was very, I mean, I had a good feeling about it. That's the thing, spirituality, like, you don't even have to speak the same language. You know what I mean? Like,
You could just feel the vibe. You're like, but yeah, like it's a whole vibe thing. Sometimes you could just know from like the way that they're talking to you about what's going on. But yeah, that whole thing, she was just so warm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so the shells, how is that incorporated? So how does she read those?
So depending on how she like from when my aunt does it, she'll throw shells and whatever lands. Like the way I watched that Santera do it, she like whatever landed upside, she pulled and she was telling you what was going on at each cell that she was pulling.
Okay.
Pulling those energies and communicating to you like what was going on.
Got it. Okay. And then the cards were more of like a confirmation, like things she sees. So she's using both of those mediums to kind of get the information.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then,
because there's some Santeras that do like where they read cards like a tarot deck, but then they have like they may not have the shells. So what they'll do is they'll get an oracle deck to kind of give you the affirmation of what your cards are saying. You know, sometimes you need that.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I do that in my practice too. I use the astrology as the main thing, but then I use oracle cards or tarot to confirm, and numerology to just a second, third opinions. So it makes it sound like, okay, yeah, this confirms everything. And then the bell, that calls the spirits, right? Because I know in a con,
Yeah, and you whatever spirits were around you, they broke her bell. I noticed that. I watched and her bell broke, and I was like, oh, what was around you? What was going on during that time? Because I was just like looking at that and saw that her bell broke, and I was like,
that was a pinnacle year for me. 2017 was a pinnacle year. It was like I was, like I was on the brink of either staying in a relationship, potentially missing out on my life partner, my twin flame, which I wanted. Like I knew I wanted that. And I was like standing in my own way, like just in the safety of another relationship. So,
yeah.
and then, yeah, that was like a pinnacle turning point that year. And so I had seen her like 3 months prior to that or so. So,
Nice.
yeah. Yeah, it was beautiful. I love that I had that experience. Like that's something I will always cherish.
Yeah,
that moment.
definitely.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like because I have a bell on my door too with the Eye of Horus too on there, and another thing that like we do in the religion is that we put mirrors at where like well in my room I like this is my room. So in my room I have 2 entries, one that goes into the house and then one that goes outside to the back. And usually I have friends come through if they're going to come over, and I have 2 mirrors just on there where the door is at, because you want whatever energy, and it may not like mal de ojo, they don't mean to sometimes, like they'll bring it. So it's just like them reflecting their energy back to them. It's like, it's just a way
yeah.
that
Interesting.
if you ever walk into Santera's house and there's a big, huge mirror in front of the door, it's their way of saying, take it back with you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I have so many mirrors in my house, but I didn't do it for that reason. But at least I know I'm protected now. Like all energy out the door. Do not leave it here. We ain't got time for that. I love it. That makes so much sense. Okay, so as we come to a close, is there anything else that you want everyone to know about Santeria and like if they want to pursue it more. I have a couple books here actually. These are my husband's, so I can't take credit for it, but one is Santeria The Religion. Sorry, my ring light is on.
Yeah.
So it's by Migene Gonzalez-Wippler. I hope I said his name right. And then this other one is Santeria African Magic in Latin America.
Yeah, I would also suggest just there's actually like a children's book that I just bought. My niece was just born, so I bought her an Orisha book, and it's I think even just those stories it's a children's book of actually I don't know the author, but I'll send it to you and you can link it, at the bottom of your video. But just hearing those stories, even like portrayed for children, like you just get a better sense of who the Orishas are and what they do. I would just say like pick, if you're going to be into this, you're getting into the religion and you want to learn more about the saints, I would just pick one at a time and go and learn what they are and learn what they like. Take like a whole week to learn what they are and petition them if you want. I'm just more like learn, like go ahead and learn. But the other thing I would suggest is finding a botanica in your area, because most botanicas are owned by santeros or santeras, or they know a santero or they know a santera. And if you want to go in that religion, ask them. But don't be offended if they don't want to teach you, because that's just how the religion is. Like they will go based off your vibe if they need to teach you, or they'll reference you out to somebody.
Because I know there's some traditional African spiritual systems where you can pay to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Which, and I mean, you pay for people's time, so I'm not even mad at that. But then you also have to be wary of who you're being brought into the practice by. Because
so that's a good suggestion, to be wary of who you're going to deal with, because there are some people who are just, they'll tell you that you need a cleaning and you need a cleaning and a cleaning. And usually when I hear about people going to this one santero and they're like, oh, I get a cleaning every week, I'm like, what do you mean you need a cleaning every week?
Yeah, that's like, they're just like taking advantage of you at that point. Yeah.
I would also say that God, I'm trying to remember what else I was gonna say. Like that was, you brought up something, which is be wary. Like I think that's the best advice.
Yeah. Follow your gut and your spirit. If it doesn't feel right, then probably isn't. And that's with anything. So it's not about the religion, it's about people. People's
there we go. I remember what I was gonna tell you. It was when you actually don't, you do pay to get into religion, but you're paying for your initiation. You're paying for all the stuff that you need for that initiation. I mean, I'm actually saving up to become a yabo, which is like a baby of the religion. And it's, like I said, I was never confirmed in Santeria, so I'm now taking my time saving up so that way I can become a yabo. And that way I can fully be in the religion and then be my own Santera at some point and hopefully pass it down to my children.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. So they can be blessed and protected. I love that. Well, this has been so enlightening. I love that we had this conversation. Do you want people to find you? I don't know.
I started, I did tell you that the last thing when you were reading my birth chart, like we were talking about like where I was going spiritually, and I told you that I do the readings. I set up a website for the readings, and now I'm trying to like build the product, which is I'm trying to make it easier for people to get like baths. And because when you're creating a bath, like you have to get the right ingredients in order to do stuff. So I'm trying to make it like a little bit more convenient for people, that I like, for my own people who come to me to get things. Like, so I do have a website set up.
Share the website so everyone can check it out.
It's called divinelysaged.com. It's on WordPress. I have to wait a little bit longer because my URL, I just bought the URL, so now like I can't use it for another couple days. But I just set that up. I am gonna link my my Instagram, because that's usually where I usually put on my stories, like when I have time for readings. I put it up. I'm like, DM me if you want a reading. And I do charge. You just have to charge for your energy. You just can't give it out. Like I'm a big anime fan, and there's this anime called Full Metal Alchemist, and it's like equivalent exchange. Like you have to exchange. That's just an exchange. I'm exchanging my energy of doing readings for money, because if I do that in the religion, you can end up being sick.
Yeah.
You can take on that person's energy from not protecting yourself, and you just become sick. And I've done that when I wasn't in the religion. I was still doing card readings when I wasn't following Santeria.
Yeah, because it's your time, and you still are a human with human needs. So even if you're doing spiritual work, you still deserve to be prosperous. And I think a lot of people that are in spiritual work, like we are, have a problem charging people.
Yeah, I do. I always feel so bad, but at the same time, I need to live.
It took me a very long time to create a business after doing readings for free for so long. So I get it, but you're telling the universe that you deserve to be blessed, and you're blessing people. So yes, you should be charging for your readings. So yes, you're doing great work. Well, Justina, it's been such a pleasure. I'm going to link all your info below so people can find you. And if they have any questions, they can reach directly out. And I don't know, maybe we'll do this again and talk about more of your journey. That would be so much fun.
I'll give you updates.
All right. So thanks for everyone for watching, and we will see you in the next video.